What's up, Warriors fans? It's your main man, Max, here for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you hear, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, I woke up this morning, and I finally got some clarity on a much-needed issue, and that issue was Jonathan Kuminga. Now, we talked about him a lot this summer, and we know his saga has really dragged on, but just this morning, an article was released from an NBA insider where, all right, we got an official word on Jonathan Kuminga's timeline. And it's not that we're going to let this play out all the way to October 1st. The deadline now has been set for Jonathan Kuminga at training camp. Like, if they don't sign him, if he doesn't accept the 2-year offer by training camp, they're pulling the deal. And for the first time, I'm like, all right, fine. This domino effect is going to basically say, hey, Jonathan, take your pick, one or the other. We're going to move in a different direction now to fill out the rest of the roster, and we don't have time to deal with your drama. And looking more into this, I don't blame the Warriors for doing this, but I don't think the Warriors are the ones who really caused this entire situation. I don't think Kuminga is at fault either, because this situation has been an entire screw up on the CBA, because we look into the CBA, and one of the big things that's been talked about this summer regarding all restricted free agents, not just Jonathan Kuminga, is that the CBA has really allowed teams, not just force teams to play hardball with their restricted free agents. And it's not just Kuminga. It's Cam Thomas. It is Josh Giddey, too. And it's frustrating because, yes, you want, for the Nets, they want to move away from Cam Thomas because he's just a scorer, and a small scorer at that, at 6'3", and he doesn't really give you much outside of that. So if you're investing a lot of money, you want to see other stat columns fill up aside from the scoring column. So I think the CBA has contributed to that. And along with Josh Giddey, I think there's a sense of hardball as well as the new CBA being extremely restrictive, because they're sort of figuring it out and trying to find where they're going in the coming years. They just signed Billy Donovan to an extension, and they want to continue to lay the groundwork for a future dynasty. And I think that's overall important, but because of the new CBA, everybody's afraid of that second apron. But on top of that, one of the things that the CBA does, and we've talked about this, is it limits the amount of contracts that you can take back in any sign and trade involving a restricted free agent. Say Kuminga gets signed for a $30 million a year deal, you can only get back $15 million a year in exchange for that. And that really limits on who you can get back in exchange for a potential star player. So I'm not exactly a fan of that. I remember when James Harden got traded, let's put it this way. The Thunder didn't get equal value back, though they did get solid value. But the contracts matched up, which is important. They got Jeremy Lamb, they got Kevin Martin, and they got a draft pick that turned into Steven Adams. So they got decent value. But if you're just trading Jonathan Kuminga outright, you're not going to get that equal value, and that's hurting players as well as hurting teams. So I definitely see that playing a factor into the future CBA when either side has the option to opt out on June 30th of 2029. And I definitely can say that one side or the other will opt out, because this is ridiculous how much it's holding up. We didn't see it so much last summer, in the first summer of the new CBA, but we're really seeing it now. So I definitely see that being the prime reason that Kuminga hasn't signed, that Giddey hasn't signed, and that Cam Thomas hasn't signed. And I see that just going away in 2029. But looking at where we are now, we're at the summer of 2025. We've got 4 years until then. How do you operate until the CBA? I guess there's an opt-out where you can then renegotiate. How do you operate and still be a dynasty? And I think the best way to do that is to operate with a lot of financial flexibility. And with financial flexibility, you need guys that are constantly on like 1 or 2 year deals, or like those expiring contracts are much more in vogue than they used to be. Like we see draft picks, yeah, they're great. Yeah, you get a young player, but those draft picks are getting as expensive as, say, an average contract in the NBA. And if you're drafting a guy, do you want to spend 4 years developing him before he's actually ready to make a serious contribution? Or would you rather sign a ready NBA ready player who knows the league, still has a decent amount left in the tank, and he's a cheaper price? So I'd rather sign the vet over just a getting another draft pick, especially when a lot of these guys are one and done players. They're not really emotionally mature or mentally mature enough to understand the way the league works. So with that financial flexibility, I looked at the Warriors roster and specifically their contracts, and I saw outside of Moses Moody and Buddy Hield, everybody's contract expires after next year. So it makes me wonder, all right, we got to move off of Moody and Buddy Hield. As much as I like those players, it's addition by subtraction. You create more roster spaces for these guys like Ben Simmons, like Malcolm Brogdon, like Seth Curry, like DeAnthony Melton, like Al Horford. Spaces for them to occupy while getting another player back. And specifically, a player that I've looked into, well, I guess looked into a lot, has been Nikolai Vucevic. And I don't think that they're going to they're going to bring him in, mostly because I think they're really convinced Al Horford can give them what they want. But it may not work. But another player that I saw on the Bulls that I really do like is Kevin Huerter. Now, we all remember Kevin Huerter, especially from that Kings series. He was a great off-the-ball guy next to De'Aaron Fox during that 7-game series that the Warriors won in 2023. Now, he's been a contributor to 2 great playoff teams, that Kings team as well as that Atlanta Hawks team playing next to Trae Young, helping them get to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though they got smoked by the Bucks. He was able to help them with the Knicks, where they beat them in 5 games, being that off-the-ball guy to be open when they draw too much attention to Trae Young, and then helping with Ben Simmons in that second-round series where they pretty much completely messed up his head, and we've all seen what has happened since then. Now, with Kevin Huerter, I like him because he is that off-the-ball guy. He is that guy that could create space for guys like Jimmy, for guys like Draymond, and not create an issue. He doesn't need the ball to be effective. He can just come off screens, quick, Steph passes over there, boom, quick 3. And boom, next thing you know, you're up 9 after some quick 3s when you're just guarding Steph and Jimmy too much. And while I will admit his overall three-point percentage was not great, I mean, it was pretty solid with at the last half of the Bulls, I will say, as well as 2 years ago during that run with the Kings. He was hitting almost 40% he was hitting 40% from 3. He was hitting, I believe, 37% with the Bulls after he was traded from Sacramento. So I do like it there. And on top of that, most importantly, he's 6'7". And I think that plays in, like, more importantly than anything regarding his three-point percentage. Because, yes, we do have guys that can hit around the same percentage as Kevin Huerter with like Moody and Buddy Hield. I believe they're both at 37% too. But those extra 3 inches, especially in the modern NBA, go a long way. He's got extra 3 inches to catch the ball, where if Jimmy throws an errant pass or Draymond throws an errant pass, he has 3 extra inches to jump over a smaller guard and get a clearer shot to the basket. So that's the big reason I like him. And again, he's on a $17 million a year contract. And that's just for 1 more year. Yes, you pile up Moody and Hield and send him to the Bulls, and there's probably going to be an extra throw-in player. But I think the fact that the Bulls haven't really established their timeline as well as their foundation, that's going to entice them to accept the likes of Hield and Moody, because you know what? It's easier to trade two smaller assets in Moody and Hield, who are making nowhere near as much than it is to trade the likes of Kevin Huerter, who's on a larger contract and may not be able to get you something significant back in exchange for him. Whereas Moody and Hield with their team control, it's just more attractive overall for any trade shooter should the Bulls decide to deal him. So I like Kevin Huerter on that team because look at this starting lineup. If my prediction goes all the way, you've got Steph Curry at the 1, Kevin Huerter at the 2, or I want to say Jimmy at the 2, Kevin Huerter at the 3, Draymond at the 4, Al Horford at the 5. On the bench, you have Seth Curry, Malcolm Brogdon, hopefully Ben Simmons, Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Post. You've got, Jackson Davis. You got Guy Santos. You've got a lot of guys that can make an impact, even if it is just smaller minutes. I love the idea of Seth coming in for Steph and still giving you that three-point powerhouse. I love the idea of maybe Malcolm Brogdon being the court general at the 1 occasionally. I love the idea of Ben Simmons learning from Draymond Green to get his head right and really become the player that he used to be. And then Quentin Post learning from Al Horford to improve his game and become a solid three-point shooting center. And then Jonathan Kuminga creating a good 1-2 dynamic with Jimmy Butler, since they both love to attack the basket and can get their buckets when need be. So I do like that, and I do want to see that happen. I think that puts them, it takes them from a play-in team to a 6 seed with a potential to get to a 3 seed if everything goes right. So I want to see that happen. I believe this deal is the best deal available to improve the Warriors while also maintaining their timeline. And if they could find a way to maneuver other ways to get additional players, I'd like to see that too. But we did also get some bad news, as we're not entirely sure where things are going to go with LeBron. And it's looking increasingly unlikely unless LeBron comes into training camp and sees, yeah, this isn't a championship Laker team, that he's going to stay with the Lakers moving forward. And it's a little more frustrating because any trade for LeBron is going to have to include Draymond Green, and I don't want to get rid of Draymond for LeBron unless those tacticals get really bad. But if those tacticals get really bad, I don't see the Lakers really being interested in him, as he may be a negative influence over a positive one on that young Laker team. I mean, you bring him in to the Lakers, what's he going to do that's better than LeBron? And that's nothing. So I don't like the idea. And on top of that, it's going to cost draft picks just to get LeBron too. So I'd rather get him on the buyout market than anything else. So let's hope that LeBron really just decides to go for a buyout, whether it be in training camp or after the deadline when he sees that, hey, this isn't going to be a championship level team. I need to get out of here. And he'll give it back maybe X amount of dollars to finish out the season with the Warriors. But it's just frustrating to hear that kind of news. And hopefully things work out well for the Warriors. But bottom line is, you know what? Ball's in Kuminga's court now. He has to make a decision. And let's just say the sooner he makes a decision, whether it be the 2-year contract or the qualifying offer, I feel the better it's going to be for him going into the season. Mostly because, all right, you go in, Joe Lacob loves you. They want to integrate you into the offense. They want to find ways to make you better. And you go in, say, take the qualifying offer. You give the Warriors a little extra breathing room to sign more guys. You take the 2-year deal. The Warriors at least have the option to trade you at the deadline. You lose a little bit of control, but you get your money. And the summer of 2027 is right around the corner, and things are going to shape up well for teams that have a lot of cap space. So if you really just get your buckets, get your points, and get things done, come 2027, regardless of what team you're playing, you have your freedom back and you're $45 million richer. So Kuminga, make a decision before the Warriors pull your offer. And I just do well with what you got. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any ideas on what the Warriors should do regarding whether trading for a guy or what they should trade Kuminga for or how much they should sign him for, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your thoughts. And as always, go Dubs.